สวัสดีครับมาพบกับรายการฝรั่งขี้นกสอนภาษาไทยตอนที่11นะครับวันนี้จะสอนเรื่องลักษณะนามภาษาอังกฤษเรียกว่า classifiers หรือบางทีถ้าคือผมเคยเรียนภาษาจีนมาภาษาจีนก็มีลักษณะนามเหมือนกันแล้วเขาจะเรียกว่า measure words ทั้งสองคำนี้ก็นะมีเหตุผลดีทำไมถึงใช้ทั้งสองคำนี้ we call it a classifier right because the class right it talks about some kind of aspect of the noun that we're talking about that makes it classifiable with another group of nouns. So like for example you can use the classifier kon means that whatever you're talking about is a person, right? So that's one classifier. Or you could use the classifier pen is the sheet idea. So anything that's a pen is something sheet, flat, sort of sheet-like. So you could talk about pen, leg. That could be a sheet of iron, a sheet of metal. Right? It could be pen, gadat. It could be a sheet of paper. Right? Pen, chocolate would be like a real flat sheet of chocolate. I've never seen this. You'd usually talk about taeng chocolate, which is the next one. Taeng is something long and usually pointy or kind of sleek and slender. So you talk about like din saw ning tang. You count pencils in tang. But you count pens, which are a little bit more ball-like, if that makes any sense. They're a little more rounded. Those are called daam. Baka ning daam. Baka daam ni. Right? Alright, so what I want to do is sort of just walk through a few of the real common ones, some of the words that they get used with, and then I want to talk about the grammar of them. And I think that this part at the end will be the most difficult with the grammar. But if you want to know how to speak good Thai, you should learn how to not say like ha pushai ni, right? Ha pushai ni doesn't really, it's not correct Thai at all. You might see that in a newspaper maybe, but usually people won't speak like this. Okay, so the first one, probably the most used or second most used classifier is kon, right? So kon, it doesn't matter where you're talking about. ผู้ชายผู้หญิงกระเทยคนเพศที่สามสาวหนุ่มป้าลุงแม่ตายายตายายพ่อน้องชายพี่ชายนักบิน right? You can talk, it doesn't have to be a specific person. นักบินประชาชนหลายคนNo, ประชาชนหลายคน might not work because ประชาชน is an entity, so it might not be worth to say it like that. But you could say right นักบิน or นักบินหลายคน many pilots, right? So นักบัญชี right? Accountant นักธุรกิจ businessman นักคิด thinker นักวิชาการ academic นักเคมี chemist นักฟิสิกส์ physicist หมอ right? หมอ doctor, physician หมอฟัน would be a tooth doctor or a dentist. หมอนวดis a masseuse or a massage therapist. หมอดู fortune teller. Sometimes an oracle, depending on how superstitious you are. All right. So all these are going to be used as kon. So you could, for example, say this person. You need to use a double class. You use the same classifier as you do nouns. So you'd say kon ni, right? But since you have this, you can often just say kon ni, and it's clear. It's understood what you mean. But if you want to say this man, you'd have to say pushai konni, right? How would you say that man? You'd say pushai konnan, right? But if you want to say there are two men, or sorry, there are two girls here. We use sao, right? So you'd say tini, right? Here, me, there are sao song kon, right? So you put the noun always first. That's the first thing. Noun always first. Then if you're going to be counting, you're talking about counting it, you want to put the number next. So, sao song kun. But it's only when you're counting, though. Alright? So, sao lai kun. Right? No specific number, but you're counting that there are many. Sao maiki kun. Not many girls, right? It still has to do with the number, how many there are. Now, if you wanted to talk about it qualitatively and not quantitatively, so you want to talk about qualitative, มันเกี่ยวกับคุณภาพ เกี่ยวกับลักษณะQuantitative เกี่ยวกับจำนวน right? So จำนวน is the amount. ลักษณะรูปแบบ is the actual description, the actual details of it, or the รายละเอียด right? The details. So basically when we look at it qualitatively, we put the classifier in the middle. So you'd say like, I don't know, what would you say? ผู้หญิงคนสวย right? Pretty girl, right? Or นักเคมีคนเก่งคนหนึ่ง right, would be a talented chemist, right? So, right. So, but if you wanted to, how would you say five talented businessmen? You'd say นักธุรกิจเก่ง5 คน. See, here you actually cut out the kon the first time. Right. So, if you notice, the classifier is most important for counting. Right. I think it's really imperative that you understand how to use it with counting. So, if you want to say these 5 businessmen, you'd say นักธุรกิจ5 คนนี้ right? But if you want to say this businessman, you would just get rid of the 5. You do that นักธุรกิจคนนี้ right? But you need that kon somewhere in there to work as your classifier. All right, now the next classifier we want to use, we use a lot, probably the most often used, is ตัว. ตัว means body, literally, but it's used with any kind of animal. So สัตว์ทั้งหลายทั้งปวง, every kind of animal, right? So หมาม้าวัวแมวนกแมลง. So six-legged insects. Mang, egg-legged insects. So, for example, you have malang sab, which is like a cockroach. Malang one is a fly. And you have mang mum, right, which is a spider. You have natürlich, sorry, German. What? Of course, you have giraffe, chang, pla, pawan, chalam. No, all these different things. Those would all be tua. So you'd say chalam lai tua, many sharks. Or pawan ha tua. Pawan. Okay, here's an example where you would, if you want to say 5 large whales, you would use a classifier in both examples, in both parts. You'd say pawan tua yai. You could stop there, right? Pawan tua yai, big whale. Or you could say pawan tua yai ha tua. So notice you have 2 classifiers here. One to talk about the quality, pawan tua yai, right? And you'll notice that when you're talking about people, you could say this: ผู้ชายตัวใหญ่5 คน. Because ตัวใหญ่ means the size of their body, literally. Yeah? So that's why maybe this isn't such a good example, actually, now I'm starting to see. But in any case, I'm hoping that you can start to see from the examples I'm using, right? You might say, to go give an example of a dog, right? So, หมาตัวนี้, this dog. How would you say that dog? Really, หมาตัวนั้น, right? How'd you say that dog over there? หมาตัวโน้น, right? How would you want to say many dogs? หมาหลายตัว. So notice now the ตัว because we're counting goes at the end. How 4 dogs. หมา4 ตัว. Those 4 dogs. หมา4 ตัว none. Right? Right. So if we would say, what about those 4 dogs? You could do this 2 ways. Totally correct would be หมาตัวสีดำ5 ตัวนี้. Right? These 5 dogs. These 5 black dogs would be หมาตัวสีดำ5 ตัวนี้. But I would say that normally in Thai you don't do that. You would just say หมาสีดำ5 ตัวนี้. Right? You'd only, with the Blawan example, like I said, it's kind of a bad example. Because the reason that there's 2 there is because the tua in the first one actually means large body size, which isn't a classifier anymore. It's actually talking about the body size. If it's not clear to you, go back and look at it again. Maybe you can figure out. I don't think I explained it poorly. I think I just wasn't sure what I was explaining in that moment. So if you go back and take a look, maybe it'll make more sense the second time. Alright, so tua, right, is also used not only with animals, but also with furniture. So, เก้าอี้ sofa, โต๊ะ ตู้เย็น TV. TV, actually, you might use เครื่อง but you could also use ตัว Same thing with guitar. I've heard guitar been counted with เครื่อง and I've heard it also counted with ตัว usually ตัว So ตัว is a really widely used classifier. Now, there's also some that are common sense, like ดอกไม้. The classifier is ดอก นะ มีดอกไม้ กี่ดอก มีดอกไม้ 2 ดอก 2 flowers, right? มีต้นไม้ กี่ต้น right? มีต้นไม้ กี่ต้น And then there are also others that have themselves as a classifier. So คน right? Obviously สะพาน สะพานนี้. Since that sounds pretty redundant, you just say สะพานนี้. You don't need to say the double classifier, right? But you might, if you wanted to count them, you could either say ห้าสะพาน, or you could, if you wanted to be very, technically correct about it, you'd say สะพาน ห้าสะพาน. Okay. Now, there are some words. Another word that's probably the most used is an. An is used for all kinds of things. When Thais have simply forgotten the classifier or they're not sure what it is, they use the word an, right? So, mi ha an. There are 5 of them. I have 5 of them, right? Orอันนี้เป็นอันที่ดีมาก. This is a good one, right? Notice there's nothing inherent about the shape or size or form of anything with an, right? But Another thing to keep in mind is that some words have classifiers that just aren't used that often. Like some that the two that you will hear often are din saw, pencil, din saw, ning tang, right? Din saw tang ni, tang is used with things of pencil-like shape. Daam, like I said, a little bit more rounded, would be used with a paka pen. So paka ning daam, right? Gadat, usually talked about in pen or by form. Okay. But then there's a word like the batu I've heard counted with itself. I've heard batu song batu. I've heard this. I've heard also batu song an, batu ani, right? Ani or anan. But really, the classifier for batu is the word for bloom, baan, right? Batu baan ni, batu baan nan. Those are the word. That's the classifier. Okay, so what the lesson to take from this is, okay, I've been speaking Thai for about 4 years before I knew that it was batu baan ni. If you don't learn baan at this point in time, that's quite okay, because even Thais themselves don't use it in every single instance, right? But you do need to know, you need to be aware of how an, toa, kon are used, and then you need to be paying attention to which ones, you know, some things like, okay, for example, a street that's really long, really long would be called a sai, or a river as well. But something shorter and more narrow would be sen. Would be so. Tanon sen ni compared with tanon sai ni would be a long road that usually is much that leads from one place to another, etc., etc. So yeah, that's about all I have for classifiers today. I'm really sorry. I said I was going to try and speak a little bit slower in these videos, and I've just realized I'm not speaking slower. However, I'm hoping that this video isn't so interesting to Thais anyway, since they already know how to use classifiers. แล้วก็ลักษณะนามเป็นสิ่งที่ไม่ค่อยมีในภาษาอังกฤษนะครับมีบ้างนะอย่างเช่นน้ำ5 ขวด right 5 bottles of water. You can't say, well, you could say 5 waters, but it sounds better to me to say 5 bottles of water. The fact that we use the word bottle here as a classifier, or 6 glasses of beer, นะเบียร์6 แก้ว right? We could say 6 beers, but how about 5 cartons of milk, or what would you use? กระบอกนมปะไม่แน่ใจgong. I don't know. I'd say probably gabok. Just let me check it out real quick. Carton. For a carton, you would say glong. Simply glong. That's what they say, at least. So yeah. So anyway, glong nom, or I don't know. I feel like maybe gabok is something different. Gabok is like a flask. Yeah, maybe you could use that. I'm not sure. In any case, use gong nom or kuat nom. We'll stick with kuat, right? A bottle of milk. You can't say 2 milks. Well, you can't. Everything happens. Eventually, in English, once we use something long enough, we turn it into a, like, you can count milk now. You can say, I have 5 milks. But that is like lunch line language, right? Can you go buy me a carton of milk? Can you buy me a bottle of milk? Makes a lot more sense, I think, and that's a classifier, right? Can you give me 2 papers? This means like 2 essays, right? But if you want to mean gadat song, pen, gadat song, buy, you have to say, can you give me 2 pieces of paper, 2 sheets of paper, you see? So we do have classifiers in English, it's just they're not always necessary. But think about it this way, that there is no S in Thai, right? So they always have to do it like this, 5 bottle water, yeah? 6 body elephant. Well, actually, elephants, I told you wrong when I said that all animals, including chang actually does not use tua, even though Thai people will say tua all the time. But you say chang, chuak, you count chang in ropes, right? Because of their nose being like, or their trunk being like a rope, I guess. I don't really know. By the way, just since we're there, an elephant's trunk is called a nguang, right? So you have the word nguang, sleepy, and then there's nguang, which is the trunk, and there's also nga. So nguang is the trunk, and nga is the ivory tusks, right? The tusks. So nguang and nga chang, and chang nap in chuak. You count them in chuak, right? In ropes, not in tua. Even though you could say tua and it wouldn't be wrong, but some Thai person who knows their Thai really well would probably come and say, "Jing jing lao man tong nap in chuak na." So just so you know. All right, that's all for now. Let me know if you have any questions. ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ